Well, since this is a bit of a catch-up podcast and a return podcast, and oops, I forgot that I missed a few podcasts, I guess I'll go ahead and just break down everything that has and hasn't occurred and just kind of let it all ride out and just see how it goes. For those just who are just listening for the first time, welcome. For those of you who have returned, welcome back. This is BT doing yet another podcast. I've been doing quite a bit of transitioning and updates over the past week and the past week or so. I almost got caught into an infamous tamed phrase that I've heard on my job where constantly when someone says a week and some change. So I'm not going to use that term. I'm just going to say over the past week and a few days. If you have not had a chance to, the last podcast that I did was pretty intriguing. That's all I can say. The link is listed on Spreaker.com if you check that out. I had a little bit of fun with my friends, and we all got to hang out and have a good time, and that was always enjoyable. So a lot of people I wish could have came, but it is what it is, and hopefully I'll see them either with me or at the event next year. So with that being said, I'm just going to jump right into my topics today. So I'm going to try to give a brief overview of my experience of breaking my MagFest and Colossus Roar Virginity. Gonna jump a little bit into a little bit of the gaming scene that I've endured, some of the music that I've kind of transitioned into listening to, chip out a little bit of sports because there's been quite a bit going on in the sports world. I was supposed to have this done as my sports podcast Sunday, but the way my sleep and my life was set up, that was just not in the cards. So wasn't any need forcing that, just didn't make sense to even do. And we'll wrap it up and move forward with another podcast, which I believe the next podcast is going to be the one this one I want you to tune into. Don't get me wrong, but the next one, I really hope you have your seatbelts on and just be prepared for the ride. That's all I can tell you. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go into my initial outline topics. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the obvious and just dabble into my first time experience with MagFest. If you've heard of the term or if you know about the term, MagFest is basically a music and gaming fest put into one event at one venue for 4 days. And you literally have the best of both worlds in this one venue. So that means that you can do anything from playing video games in different areas to getting literally rocking out in rock band down to watching various performers perform different routines between DJing, singing, panel discussions, anything that you possibly could enjoy at MagFest is there. One of the things that really caught my attention or that I really was intrigued by the most about MagFest would have to be the cosplay. So for those of you who are, I'm not going to say new, but are kind of not hip to how that goes, basically, let's take Halloween. And instead of constraining Halloween solely to just one day of the year and it has to be something creepy or something cartoony or whatever, you expand that option amongst all setups and situations involving anything from musical artists to video game characters to video game likenesses, things of that sort. For instance, my sis, she did a setup where she had a jacket that was for Link. And I'm sorry. Yes, for Link. I was ready to almost mess it up. But it was for Link, and she had the pants and had the boots and the whole setup. And it was like simple. It was Link. And for those, a tidbit of knowledge to share. The game is called Legend of Zelda, but the character who's the main character with the green hat on is Link. If you call him Zelda, say it to the wrong person, you might not make it alive. That's all I can tell you. So she did that, but a lot of people, like, there was one girl who was dressed as Storm from X-Men. If you go to any of our, I I may put links, so if they are listening, or if I remind them or remember, I'll put links for individuals' Instagrams to see. Or better yet, I'll give a better option. If you are on Instagram, if you type in hashtag MagFest 2016, you'll get a good vibe or a good idea of how heavy cosplay was. And I truly must admit, folks didn't miss not one period to anything that they designed or created. One of my coworkers went, and I'm kind of mad because I wish I would have been able to see him there. But hey, life is life, and when you're on the move, you're on the move. As I mentioned in the last podcast, the four of us who were together, we all did Legends of the Hidden Temple. We've kind of got our idea together for next year. We're not going to expose anything yet. Some people know about it, some people don't. Anybody who plans to come with us, if you are down to join, come on. You might like this idea. It's up to you, personal preference, whatever. But so to put it in a legitimate perspective, let's say you leave wherever your room is. You come down to the main area. When you come into the main area, there are different sections off to the side where there are panels. There are different mini events going on for stuff related to zombies, video games, music, etc. There were different bands who performed at the main stage. On Friday night, they had Laser Quest, which was impossible to get into. It wasn't even that serious, but hey, it is what it is. There was pretty much everything that you could do. So you're on that floor. If you go down one more floor to the lower level, you're pretty much in the main mecca where everybody usually is. The best way I can describe it is there's 4 sections. There's one section for your arcade games. And when I say your arcade games, if you knew there was an arcade game that was out titled that game, there was an 85 to 90% chance they had it there. They had Tabletop Pac-Man. I don't know if anybody remembers. Anybody who lives here in Richmond knows about Tabletop Pac-Man. If you remember 6th Street Marketplace, and you remember that little small game room, and you remember that one table that always was played on every single day, Table Pac-Man was life. That's the best way I can describe it. I know for a fact that I spent hours on in that area playing Tabletop Pac-Man. So between that and also pinball machines, they had ample pinball machines. They even had pinball tournaments. My game and my fixture that kind of just eased my stress for the weekend was NBA Jam Tournament Edition, because I hadn't seen that game on arcade in so long. So for them to have it there was just the dream of a lifetime. So that's the arcade section. Now the arcade section took up quite a bit of space. I tried to do the best panoramic view that I could of it. I hope I got it. If I posted it, I don't remember. I can look and check, but I'm not 100% sure. But I did get the actual panoramic view of the arcade area, and it was to die for. So you have the arcade area. Beside the arcade was I called it the merchandise. I think it was another term for it, but that was pretty much where all your merchandise was. Shirts, lanyards, photos, video games, arcade. Someone at one of the booths, they were selling a pinball machine. Anything that you wanted to possibly buy was in this section, and most of the deals were pretty worthwhile. I won't get too negative about anything because I know people are listening and I'm keeping that in mind. So, but they had everything there that you could look for. If you had the money to buy it and it was something that you were looking to get, it was a likelihood it was there. Sailor Moon, Doctor Who, all of those any of those shows that had that had like different artwork for it or anything that was related to those shows was all there. So a few of my friends, they picked up some things that they, liked. I picked up 2 shirts I picked up 1 shirt from there. Because I got 3 shirts that weekend. Because I'm trying to, elderly moment, sorry. There were 3 shirts that I got. One that I'd already purchased before going to MagFest. One that was that was at the booth near where I got my shirt from that I ordered in advance with Game Chops. And the third shirt I got was in the merchandise section, which was the PlayStation controller, which it's not literally the controller, but it showed the 4 buttons on the front of the PlayStation controller. So for me, that was like legit nostalgia. So I wore that to work Monday, and that was, a blast, enjoyment, whatever. So that's the merchandise section. Then the third section was the independent games. Any of the independent developers who are coming out with games or have games that are already out, you could kind of play around with the game, see what they were about, get some free paraphernalia, may have to pay for a few things, stuff like that, but it was there for your liking. And then the last section is I would say the 80s childhood dream. Because arcade was 90s, but 80s and a bit of 90s was consoles. So you had your original Nintendo, you had Duck Hunt, you had NBA Jam on video on Genesis, you had Mortal Kombat. You pretty much any game that you could think of being played in that area was there. And you had all your old console games as well as your current gen, which are no longer next gen. So if you do see anybody with a 360 talking about next gen, they need to wake up. But your current gen consoles for Xbox One and PS4 were in that room as well. So you had people playing you had them playing Super Smash Brothers on Wii U, Smash 4. You had Street Fighter 5 that was out. People would come in with the full joystick. That one of those joysticks cost at least $120, $130 minimum, like a good one. So you had that in the area. You had FIFA. It was one night we were downstairs and they were playing FIFA on PS4. I almost wanted to jump over there and play that. They had Halo 5. They did Dance Central. I mentioned it earlier. They had Rock Band. They even had a Virtual Boy console, or the Virtual Boy system. A lot of people really didn't mess with or play with, but it was there. The added bonus behind all of these games, you could play them. Well, two things. As far as the arcade section, you could play all of the games for free. It was, even though they were coin operated, you could just go up, press start, and play. And the other caveat of it, which I loved, the video game section and the coin op or arcade section were open 24 hours. So you could be downstairs at 6 or 7 in the morning, run downstairs and play, if it was on the console, play Double Dribble. I didn't see Double Dribble. If I had seen it, I think that would have completed my night altogether. But all the other games we played were just fine. We played Super Mario All-Stars, Mario 2, we played Mario 3. It was every bit of retro worth playing. Got to play. It was a game there that kind of mimicked Dance Dance Revolution, but it was it required buttons. You could either press the buttons that were on the pad, or you could use just your controller. And it was kind of like picking up, knowing left and right and your buttons on the game. But it was fun. I made an attempt to play it. It's on my Instagram, or I think my friend posted it on his Instagram, and it was just enjoyable to attempt to play. So there was that, and just all in all, it was a good time. It was something worth doing, and something that if you have a chance to do it, then you'll truly enjoy it. So giving my MagFest update, all in all, I had a good time. I enjoyed it. I made the most out of it. It was worth doing. And the truth is, I'm going to be doing it again next year. So that Saturday, or the days near that weekend, or that weekend itself, I will need off. I'll probably take that day after to just kind of recoup as well, because I didn't really recoup like I wanted to, but nothing worth crying about. Spilling, no need crying over spilled milk. It's not the end of the world. All right. So I'm going to jump into my sports topics, and I'm going to kind of jump around with these a little bit, because I really want to just make this as simple and as concise as I can. LSU with college basketball. So first I'm going to jump into college basketball. LSU has been struggling with their bit of playing. I have an idea, and I'm going to do this a little different because this is my podcast. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to do the sports podcast now. What I'm going to do is get up, get around, relax a little bit, make this primarily about MagFest and primarily about gaming, and also let those who are listening be aware that next week you might want to, ladies, you might want to be prepared for you got to kind of disappear because Mortal Kombat XL comes out. So that'll probably take up some time in life. Just fair warning. You heard it from me, so don't say that no one told you. But I'm going to kind of close it out here. And it's not that I don't want to get into my sports topic. I kind of want to make my podcast work the way it's been working, which means, okay, if I skipped sports last week, I skipped sports last week. Chalk it up to I skipped sports last week. Sunday, I'll make up for it. The topics I have, I'll refine them, update them a little bit because a lot has changed in a week. Because those were the topics I was going to do based on what was going on in that particular time frame. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. As I mentioned yesterday, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, if you're not able to, go back and be prepared because the next podcast that I do tomorrow is going to be the most entertaining, epic fail based podcast I've done in a while. And that's all I'm going to say. So until next time, y'all be blessed, stay positive, be good, do something good in your life. If you have not done so already, I made this a challenge to most of my friends and I'm hoping they fulfilled it. Text one person who's in your phone that you haven't texted to talk to in a while. Say hi to them, see how they're doing. And if you're not comfortable with doing that, then my other option might not be good for you. But if you're able to, call somebody. Just call somebody and talk to them and see how they are. Someone might need that call or that hello to let them know that I'm okay. A little subtle and a little somber is in ending the podcast, but that's just how I do. So until next time, this is BT signing out. Y'all take it easy. Peace.